Yo, what's good, boys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show 25 video for you guys. And yesterday, we got our new Threads 2.0 drop. So you can see we have a ton of new cards here. We also got Spotlight. I include some headliners I haven't talked about yet, as well as a new chase card. So quite the drop. Most of these cards are pretty easy to get, with the exception of like Leo DeVry, Kinda Correa, George Brett, stuff like that. So it's a pretty good budget drop, and I think it's a good showing of kind of where the game's going. We're gonna start getting a lot of 97, 98, 99s that won't cost that much, that will be pretty budget friendly cards. So hopefully this will give you guys a better idea of what cards are more usable out of this drop. If it does, like, subscribe, all that. So start off with our headliner, Joe Torre. I like him. I think he's probably just pretty low A tier in my opinion. I always think he has one of the more underrated swings every year. He always has really good hitting quirks. It's just always his power's not the greatest. This card, power's not that bad. He just can't play catcher. So at third base, competition's a lot stiffer. He's not really up to par with even like a Dick Allen. Like if you're just looking at only righty third baseman, we just got the new Correa, who's actually primary third base, and then Dick Allen. So it's a little tough over at third, and then you got J-Ram, Chipper, you know, the usual suspects over there. So just tough. I think he's like low A. So I wish he was better, but Leover Peguero, interesting career arc for him. I remember when this guy was getting like shortstop cards. So interesting. He's a first baseman on this card. Just D tier. Like the stats are just, you know, as a budget card, as you know, you can just log on to a game and play one moment and get his card. Cool, whatever. But you know, for a card you'd actually want to use, probably not. Eli White, same thing. Just very blessed stats. Like other than the 99 speed, that's probably the nicest thing you can say about this card. Let's see what we got. This guy, the Rockies guy, I forget his name, and it's a little hard to see here. Hernandez. He looks like an interesting card. This is a Topps Now card where if he came out, you know, a month and a half, 2 months ago, he'd be crazy. He would be very reminiscent of like that Davis Schneider that came out for the Blue Jays that everybody used as a pinch hitter against lefties. He would be like the righty version of this. He's like a mini Jordan. That being said, there's just, if you want a lefty that bashes righties, there's a ton of good options. I probably wouldn't do this guy unless you're just on like an insane budget. JP Crawford, he has his fan base. I will say this is probably the most usable one we've gotten all year. We had the Moonshot one. I was not very high on him just because the defense was so bad at such a premium position. This card is a lot easier to justify using. This guy, I forget his name, and it's too small for me to read right here, but I thought his pitch mix looked interesting. Righty reliever is not the easiest thing in the game to find right now, so if you're on a decent difficulty, this guy's pitch mix I thought looked decent enough. Now, I believe he's a free card. He could be a pack card, but I think he's a free. I'm not 100% sure which, but looked decent enough. Haven't used him. Don't know if he's got like a funky windup or whatnot, but I just think his pitch mix looks decent enough, and there's not too many righties that I trust. Warming Bernabel, one of the more interesting names on the list. A tier might be gas in that. I think he's just B. Like, he's whatever. For a 99, this is a weird card. He's like a fast first baseman. I'm sure I used him doing the moments, but I don't really, his swing didn't stand out to me. So it's just unremarkable, I think, as far as a 99 spotlight goes. One of the worst ones we've probably gotten in a while. It's a fun name, and I get it, but just card-wise, he's not that crazy. Savale, I do need to look at his pitch mix, but he's like funky some years. You can see he's number 7 just by pure attributes, but that doesn't mean too much. So a slow cutter paired with a slow sinker, so I don't know how great that's going to be. Slow to change up, slow slider, and probably a splitter that's a little too fast for its own good. So not a huge fan of the Savale card. I think he's probably just I mean, it mostly depends on your difficulty, right? On All-Star, he's maybe even like F tier, but he's probably not Glass now tier. But if you're on like Hall of Fame, if you're on Legend, maybe B, maybe A. Like maybe you can tunnel enough or just use his pitches effectively enough to where you can get some outs on those higher difficulties just because of the control and the fact he already doesn't throw super hard. All right, so next up we got Volpe. Thinking like mid-A, I guess we'll check. I know his stats actually. I just want to see how he compares to like Adames per se. But like Adames, obviously a little more of a grind, but probably a better swing. Not my favorite swing in the world. Probably a better swing, just better contact. Power is more or less a push. Technically, Volpe has a little more. Vision is an actual push. Adames is just way better fielder. And then Volpe, a little more speed. So, pretty comparable. I just think that Adames has a way better swing. I don't really love Volpe's cards ever. I don't think he's really gotten that many this year, like the Easter one. So, if for some reason you enjoyed that Easter Volpe, maybe this is like a S tier shortstop for you. But I'm probably just good on him. Freddie, I'll be real, like kind of just skipped over this one. Definitely, he's a conquest card, I think. So that explains why I haven't really looked at him. Does have catcher pop time. Yeah, that's more or less what I thought. Defensively, he's pretty crazy. Like this is one of the better defensive catchers in the game. But it just gives Austin Hedges vibes. Another Padres catcher, another defensive catcher. Just doesn't really have a spot in the game. And now we're starting to get to our new Threads cards, which I think are the more interesting cards of the drop. Tyler Rogers, pretty solid. Some people will probably say he's BP. You just have to know how to pitch with him, and you have to be annoying, and you have to be cool with just being a scumbag. You're pretty much just tucking a pitch in a corner every single time. And even if your opponent hits it, it's probably going to be a single, you know. Very rarely are you going to give up a slider, sinker in the corner, perfect home run with Tyler Rogers. It's going to be a single, it's going to be a double. Most of the time it's going to be a line out, and that's just kind of his whole gimmick, is just literally putting pitches in a corner every single time. Dustin May, how the mighty have fallen. When I saw this card, I got flashbacks because he's probably the pitcher I have personally struggled the most against all year. However, limiting him to 4 pitches, and they're not 4 great pitches. Just doesn't him and Walker Buehler in the locker room. Wonder what happened. Sweeper, sinker, 4-seam, cutter. And they don't really have great speed differentials. He has no outlier on this card. So, yeah, he's just not great. He is almost like starting pitcher, like Phillips, somebody like that. Like a Trinan, if he was a starting, just not great. Just not ideal. Soroka, he's always kind of weird for me. I'm not 100% familiar with his pitch mix. I think he's another like conquest guy where you have to run the conquest to get him. You can see decent hits, everything else kind of meh at this point. 4-seam, slurve, circle change, sinker. So other than just kind of having a funky release, the pitches themselves are not great. Is a funky release decent enough for C tier? Probably not, because Savale I could actually see getting some use on higher ranks. Soroka, no, not really. He's like a worse Sonny Gray, in my opinion. Like, if I just want to use somebody with a janky release, give me the, like, summer Sonny Gray. Taj Bradley, a guy that I'm not going to say I don't like Taj Bradley in real life, but as a player, I've never seen the hype with him ever. So, 4-seam, cutter, splitter, 12-6. These 3, not terrible. And honestly, if he was a relief pitcher, we'd be talking about a guy here. But he's not. He's a starter. So, basically a 3-pitch mix. Is that similar to Savale? Maybe he's a tunnel god, right? You're throwing the 4-seam with a pretty slow cutter and then a splitter. So that's 3 pitches that tunnel pretty well off each other. Just no outlier. And then his 4th pitch is a 12-6. So as a starter, probably D tier. In general, I think his mix is pretty decent, but you'd probably want him to be a reliever. Taylor Rogers. I'm going to put him S tier, just off gut reaction. But my BR guys will have to let me know, because I think he's been like a silver or bronze for the entire year. This is like his first relevant card, I believe. But if he's anywhere close to like the captain one that we got, I forget if it was last year or 2 years ago at this point, but that one was pretty gross. Like he's pretty janky. His release is kind of warpy, and he's got okay pitches. So he should just be another strong lefty that beats up on lefties, and is not that hard for righties to hit, would be how I would assume. Brock Stewart, haven't used a ton of him this year. I know his pitch mix. I just don't really know the speed differences of his pitches. Some years they change it, some years it's more or less the same. So four seam, sweeper, circle change, sinker, cutter. He always has a really nice pitch mix. Where he's hurt is just on the differentials, right? No outlier. So the hardest he's probably gonna throw for you is 99, maybe 100. Does have pretty nice per nines, but then how much are you really throwing the sweeper? So your speed differential is like 98 to 87 on the circle change, which is not great. So in theory, he's pretty good. Like on Legend, on Hall of Fame, maybe you'll get some life out of him. On lower difficulties like All-Star, I think the speed differential is not going to be good enough to get a lot of swings and misses. So I'm gonna nerf him a little bit there. I'm gonna be conservative, put him in A tier. Griffin Jacks, I'll give him A tier. A card that I light up personally. I don't think he's hard to hit whatsoever. He needs like an outlier. Like even an outlier sinker would probably help him. An outlier four seam would be ideal. Honestly, the thought of this guy in the Rays pitching factory, like if we want to talk IRL real quick, is kind of scary, because you know what they do with pitchers, and he's already got pretty gross stuff in real life. But in the game, doesn't carry over. I think he's relatively easy to hit almost all the time. His one like mainstay in the game is throwing away sweepers to righties, but there's not really that many righties for him to exploit that against. Next up, we've got Tigers legend Charlie Morton. So yeah, he's okay. Like he usually throws pretty hard, but his actual differentials and pitches aren't that crazy. So like the cutter at first glance seems pretty good, but then you know, mid control, mid break, it's pretty slow, but it's not like out of line with all his other pitches. Just like, I think he just looks like a B tier card. Like just fine. Like if you told me he gave you an okay start, I'd probably be side-eyeing your opponent for not hitting him harder. It's very reminiscent of, he got that like prime, I think Braves card earlier in the year. He was all right, nothing special. That's exactly what this one would be. Chafin is okay some years. It depends on his pitch mix. It's usually nothing special. 3 or 4 pitches. See what they gave him here. 4, primary slider is kind of nice, but throwing a primary slider that's really slow means you're gonna have to have other good pitches. It's very like Matt Strom-esque. Sinker, 4-seam, circle change. So I wouldn't say that's strong. Speed differential's not really there. Like he throws slow, and then he also throws really slow off speed. I'm probably good on him. Like there's maybe a role for him on really high difficulty to just absolutely paint away sliders to lefties. But you know, if the nicest thing I can say about him is that he's really good lefty, there's a million other guys that are better against lefties. Like Taylor Rogers, I'd rather have, Matt Strom, new Gregory Soto. Like there's just way better guys to get lefties out. Ke'Bryan Hayes, I feel like has a pretty underrated swing in game. His moment was very easy for me. I will say the power numbers are pretty stark. Obviously, he's a crazy fielder. Like, you know, his comp coming up was like Nolan Arenado. Makes sense. Has disgusting defense. Just the bat's just not really there. Decent contact, pretty good clutch for what that's worth. But, you know, again, it's third base. There's a million better guys at third base. to where I'm not really thinking of that card. Tigers legend Chris Paddock. Tigers just went out and got a lot of RMC innings because Reese Olson and Skubal, or Reese Olson's probably done for the year. Skubal probably does not need to pitch every single day. So it makes sense to go get a lot of guys that just eat innings. And that is what Charlie Morton and Chris Paddock will do for you in the game, because they are both incredibly mid with super mid pitch mixes and just nothing special. So I think Paddock's probably a little worse than Morton. Morton at least has more like dominant, overpowering pitches, but neither one of them's great. Ahmed Rosario. This card surprised me from playing with him. Like, his swing's not bad. He is actually pretty solid against lefties, but I imagine that comes at the cost of his righties. Yeah, so 125.98 against lefties with max clutch. But then he's super mediocre against righties, and he's actually a bad fielder, and he's moved to third base now. He is, on his fifth team at this point? So, yeah, third base for the Yankees is an interesting look for him. Grichuk, honestly, underrated guy, IRL, and underrated in game. I've always kind of liked his swing. That being said, his stats aren't anything crazy. 101, 112, 120, 100, 103 clutch. Pretty bad fielder, not super fast. Has dead red, so decent enough. I think that's just like a B tier card. He's just mid. I would just say he's a worse Harrison Bader, who... Did Bader get 2 new Threads cards this year? No, he got a Moonshot card. That's right. Speak of the devil, he is up next. So I would say he's either just top of B, right above him, or maybe he sneaks into A. Real ones remember the Harrison Bader like monthly card from forever ago. He was pretty nice, but 100, 112, 111, 90, 100 clutch. Very good fielder, and he's pretty fast. So for him already being in left field, that's probably where you would want to run him anyway. He has a nice enough swing. I think he's like mid A tier. He's fine as far as the 98. He's not bad to run. He also makes the Phillies team, which is one of the better captain teams that you could be running at the moment. Them and the Mets just got a big come up with the new Threads cards. And Cubs. Cubs are kind of on the come up. So Duvall, same thing. I've kind of thought about him for the whole year. Like, if you're on Legend and your opponent can have, barely any time to recognize the pitch coming in, I think he's pretty good. But, on lower difficulties, somebody not being able to hit like a 99 mile an hour outlier cutter probably says more about them than it does about Duvall. So not an awesome card by any means. He's all right. I think you need to be on a higher difficulty to really make his pitches work together. O'Hearn. This card had me questioning how he was a 98 overall when I saw him. 100, 108, 76, 102, 105 clutch. They just gave him like crazy fielding, which for a first baseman is ridiculous. He has gotten some of the worst high overall cards I've seen all year. I think he's probably D tier, honestly. Merrill Kelly, always like a solid pitcher. He's more of like an upgraded like Charlie Morton, where it feels like he gets a million cards. And he's always solid. Like, he's always fine. He always has a nice enough mix, like circle change, four seam, cutter, sinker, slider. He's more of a high difficulty guy. So maybe I will push him down to B tier for that reason. I think you need to be minimum on Hall of Fame to get decent starts out of him. And you probably want to be on Legend. And even then on Legend, there's just going to be guys you'd rather pitch. So he's kind of in a weird spot, but I think he's B tier. He's all right. David Bednar, C tier with an asterisk. If you guys have played the Pirates enough in offline modes, or just maybe BR, and you ran in somebody that actually took David Bednar for some reason, you would know he has one of the weirder fastballs in the game. Like, it is significantly faster than it looks coming in. By the time you've swung, you're already late on it. But that's the only nice thing I can say about him. He doesn't actually have outlier on it, even though it feels like it. And then his other pitches just aren't really complimentary. He has a splitter, which is nice, but then he also throws a curveball. So yeah, he's not awesome by any means. Ramon Laureano, what a come up. What a come up. I thought he would be really good when he was coming up with the A's, and then just, he had like the one good year and then the steroid stuff, and now he's back. Kind of interesting. 93, 115, 100, 106, 101 clutch. Pretty good fielder, but then he's kind of slow, so it offsets it. At least he is already in left field. Is A tier gassing it? Probably, but I think his swing's genuinely nice. Like when I was doing the moment in the program for him, I liked his swing. Now that's grain of salt. That's before you get on online servers. That's before you play guys that are just throwing you inside sinkers every single pitch with them. So obviously not one for one, but I do like his swing. Gregory Soto, S tier. Probably will suffer from the same deficiencies as the Easter one. I'll be interested to see. I kind of didn't know completely about like coming set between every pitch when I was using the Easter one. So this will be interesting to see. Again, he does not have a changeup. He has a splitter, which kind of works as a changeup, but it's also too fast for that. So he still kind of lacks the same like dominant pitch mix that we've had from him in the past. But I still think he'll be really good. So maybe if you don't love the pitch mix or if you don't love the pinpoint, maybe he drops. But I view him as S tier, at least for this drop. Like whenever I'm doing these tier lists and I put cards in S tier, doesn't mean they're necessarily like need to be in your lineup or they just walk into a God squad. I just think they're really usable, good cards relative to everything else in the drop. And that's where I kind of view him. Josh Naylor, underrated swing. I do like Naylor's swing. It's just, dude, his stats are always just bad. Like they're not great. 105, 119, 78, 91. Like you're telling me this guy with this build and what he's done in his career has an aggregate of what, like 83, 84 power? That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, all he does is hit, and he doesn't even really do that well. So nice addition for the Mariners theme teams out there. They're kind of eating with JP and Josh Naylor, but the cards themselves aren't crazy. Ryan Helsley, interesting. A tier. They actually made him decent. Shout out to everybody that sold him when I told you to sell the BR one. It's been a while, but like, here you go. Here's a usable one. You want to use him? This is him. 112 max Ks for what you care about that. Decent control, really high pitch clutch, and then has the outlier fastball, has the slider, has the 12-6, also throws a cutter. One of the few guys all year, it's not exactly one for one with like Kopech and Dibble because the cutter is a little too fast. But finally, somebody else you can work like rollovers on, and another Mets guy. So you can see the Mets, pretty nice will come up here. You can make maybe the argument for S tier. I think I'm just going to put him as like a strong A for now. I don't think he's crazy. Leo DeVry, one of the better cards that came out today. He's pretty much just Jimmy Rollins with no quirks. So I don't know how much I love that. You can see 106, 120, 97, 102, 115 clutch, decently fast, decent fielder. He is taller. He also has second base secondary, so that is pretty nice for him. We can compare the two. I think that is the best comparison. If it'll let me do a lot, if it'll let me do more than just these two, I would. Yeah, okay, we can. So we can put Ellie next to him because I think that's kind of the next guy up. So you can see that contact-wise, DeVry's a little better than Rollins, which is interesting. And then Rollins is pretty close to Ellie, which I've been saying. Power-wise, it's pretty much a push. DeVry's has slightly higher average power. Vision, Rollins has a ton more than the other two for what you care about that. Clutch is very similar amongst all three of them. And then arm strength, Ellie wins, then it's Rollins, then it's Leo. Arm accuracy doesn't really matter. Reaction, they both have better reaction, but we know Ellie's way taller, so he's going to play better. And then Ellie and Rollins both max out their speed, whereas DeVry is stuck at, 91? So, they each have kind of their things. I think, for me, if you're going to make me rank them, it would probably be Rollins 1, and then I would view DeVry and Ellie as like tied. So I wouldn't say he's necessarily worth his price because he's like the special insert card. And if you want IRL tidbit, I think it's crazy. Like, prospects are always prospects. They're never a sure thing. Like, even Bryce Harper, some people thought would be terrible. So prospects are never a sure thing, but turning a relief pitcher into the #1 prospect in baseball, you gotta feel pretty good if you are an A's fan. Cedric Mullins, this card's all right. Like, he's got hit lefty all the time. His stats aren't anything crazy. But I told you guys earlier in the year when he had the chase card that there will come a time when there is a usable Cedric Mullins for you, and here it is. So 118, 102, 104, 115, 112 clutch. Decent fielding. I'd probably like to see the reaction be a little higher, but he is kind of fast. He does not have secondary, so you're going to have to play him out of position. But he's decent. He's usable. I think that's what people wanted out of a Cedric card. I would not call him S tier, but having the higher contact against lefties should help kind of open up some of those timing windows when you are having to hit lefty inevitably. Bieber, always super mid in game. Just not a good recipe ever. Like, you're talking about a pitcher that likes to throw first pitch curveballs for strikes in real life. Just not ever going to be great in MLB The Show. 104 hits, 101 control. Let's see. Four seam, slider, circle, cutter, knuckle curve. Not the worst pitch mix in the world until you realize that the cutter is pretty close to the slider, and the cutter is also pretty close to the four seam. So just these four pitches together are just going to be barrel finders. And he's not going to be great. Maybe on like this is a guy where his best difficulty would probably be GOAT, and that no longer exists. So he's pretty irrelevant, I think. Correa, arguably the best card that came out today. I think it's him and DeVry. It depends on how much you care about switch hitting. But this Correa is pretty crazy. Again, stiff competition. He's a primary third baseman now. You can run him at shortstop, but obviously he's not going to be quite as good defensively there because he is a primary third baseman. But the reaction's pretty high, so it might not matter that much. But 120, 112, 105, 110, 115 clutch. You guys know how much I enjoyed the Weekend Classic one at the start of the year. A lot of you guys also enjoyed that one. Here you go. He's a dog. I think he's very similar to like Dick Allen. I think it's like him and Mr. Allen at third base if you want righty primary guys, maybe like Joey Bats out of position. And then, you got your switch hitters. You got Chipper, you got J-Ram and stuff. So he's up there. He's very good. And he should be because you have to have all of these to get him. Mason Miller, D tier, dog. This card sucks. Like, I thought they would do it like, what they kind of did last year and give him a fourth pitch at some point. Like, I love that it's just popping up his finest, which he probably should have had a pitch mix similar to his finest if they wanted to make him more relevant. I don't know if they think it's too early in the year or what, but four seam slider circle change is just not getting it done anymore. Not with the fact that nobody has righties. Like, when this card was relevant earlier in the year, it's because you could shrink PCIs a lot, and his hits were way ahead of all the hitters, and there were actual righties in the game. They've touched slider shrinking PCIs. Nobody actually uses righties. Everybody's using switch hitters or lefties, and they didn't update him at all. He didn't get any extra pitches or anything, so just unfortunate. He's still kind of the same pub stomp pitcher. Like, if you want to use him on All-Star and you bring him out of the bullpen and you throw sliders that bounce off people's shins and high fastballs that they never have a chance of hitting, cool. If that works for you, if that's your competition level, then I'm sure he's pretty good. But, against players that know what they're doing, he's not going to be great. Eugenio Suarez. This is a cool card. The contact's pretty low against one side. I forget exactly what side it is, and I'm going to have to spell his name. That's not fun. There we go. 98. Like, 98's pretty bad. It is from the handedness advantage, so it does offset it a little bit. The clutch offsets it a little bit. But 98, 120 max power, 117 clutch. Decent enough fielding relative to being a third baseman. No secondaries. I think you could sit here and make the argument for him being S tier, at least for this drop. Maybe he's not an S tier third baseman, but for this drop, I think he's one of the better cards. I just think more in that Cedric Mullins range where you have to love the card to really go out of your way. I don't love his swing. I thought that the April like spotlight one that we got forever ago with Santana, I thought he looked crazy until I used him. I've never been a big slap swing guy, and just his this year, not for me. Prior years I've liked it. This year just not for me. So you're gonna have to really like his swing, I think. Duran, I mean, still sucks. If you just want to show people that look, then you know he's here. Like four seam, splitter, sweeper, knuckle curve. So he throws double curveballs basically. You're almost never gonna throw this knuckle curve. It's just gonna be four seam, splitter, and then occasionally mixing in the sweeper. But he just doesn't have good speed differentials, and he's got double outlier obviously. So the splitter's like 94, 95 most of the time. So it's hanging around just close enough to the four seam where people can still hit it. I think I'd probably prefer him over Mason Miller. It's kind of tough. Like I don't really want either of them in my bullpen at this point. But it's kind of a toss up. I think I would lean Duran though. Ryan McMahon. Some people are going to be really happy about this one. A lot of people really enjoyed his card earlier in the year, the Easter one, even though it wasn't necessarily the craziest card in the world. 101, 111, 100, 125. Decent enough clutch. Really good fielding. But does have to hit lefty all the time. So I think I have to drop him for that reason, especially when we have cards like Griffey now. So like I assume everybody's probably going to want to have Griffey in the lineup. That'll be like one lefty spot. Do you really want to use another on like Ryan McMahon when there's so many other strong third basemen? I think he's decent. He's an all right option, but nothing crazy. Willie Castro. I think he's up here with DeBry. Interesting enough. Actually, let's not even do that. Let's do the player comp stuff. And we will compare him with himself. He is a left fielder now, which is interesting. And then he's actually worse contact wise. I'm pretty certain. But he gains a good amount of power and a ton of secondary. So yeah, you can see way worse contact, at least against righties. Same against lefties. But he gains 14 power right and a lot more against lefties. I'm not even going to try to do the quick math there, but a lot more against lefties. So relative to this meta, you're looking 125, 116, super tough on lefties. So you love to see that. Better vision, so you'll get bigger timing windows. His bunting's worse, so if that's you, probably not the card for you. But he's a pretty good fielder in left. 82, 90 arm strength, so still has an absolute hose. And then same reaction. So you can get this reaction to 81. You can get his fielding to 87. Doesn't really matter. You can get to 85, and then in the secondary, he'll still be a gold fielder. So you like that. And then 95 arm. Like, if your outfield is Willie Castro, King Griffey, and like Carlos Beltran, then I think that would give you like an average arm strength of like 96 or something like that. So that's crazy. Got absolute hoses in the outfield. And then he retains his bad ball hitter. So again, they continue to not touch quirks, but it's fine because he's a dog. So if you enjoyed the chase card one earlier in the year, or if you just didn't get to use that one, this one isn't the craziest to get. I will say a lot of the old new threads, so if you did not already have like Santander or something, those spiked. Those went through the moon. So I would urge you guys, anytime you're getting those like deluxe packs, maybe consider it. Yeah, the golds are bottoming out, but I chose one earlier and got Christian Walker, who was a pretty unremarkable pull when new threads first came out. He's like 35K now because people are scrambling to get the old ones to lock in for the new ones. So it's interesting. And then George Brett, easy S tier. Yeah, he does have to hit lefty a lot. Does he have one of the better lefty swings every year? Yeah, I would say so. That was a massacre. I mean, we're just not going to pull him up here. Oh, shows on. There we go. So you can see number 2 true overall third baseman, 125, 125, 93, 100, 125. You can give him to diamond defense. The reaction will always be kind of suspect. And low-key, George Brett's always a guy that kind of plays fake defense. Can play first, can play third. He's okay. he's all right. He's not my choice of third baseman. For some people, this card will be Zeus. That's an interesting stance for him. I wonder if that's going to be reflected in game. I feel like that's not really his usual batting stance, but yeah, he's all right. You know, if him and Griffey are your two lefties in your lineup, I don't mind that. I don't think it's terrible. It's just not for me. I think I want a guy that's more power focused, but he's still a really solid card. So that is our new content tier list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, all of that. Peace.